Hello everyone, welcome back to CSCI 210. Today we will cover the last video of the code log, which will be how to work the light sensor. Now, the problem we are trying to solve is how to start and stop on a black line. Now, before I actually get into the code, I would like to work a little bit with the sensor and show you how it works. The sensor is a little finicky, and the reason it's a little finicky is it wants to make sure that it's following the black line that you have laid out for it, and it's not led astray by some other indications. So, since it is a little bit finicky, we decided not to do the no line follow assignment. The other instructors, I decided that's a little too much to ask of you for starting out programming. We could, but that does not mean we should. I've heard that before. Okay, first of all, much to my surprise, as a Sharpie does not work. I was going to test my program, which you always should, and I just made a big black mark with a Sharpie, and I tried to use it and it didn't work. Now let me show you what happens. You notice that Lightning has a couple of lights showing on his sensor here underneath his chin. That means that he thinks that this is white, that this is not black. Now, I stick this under there, I expect the lights to go out saying that this is black and he would follow this line. Notice it doesn't happen. That's because this is made with a Sharpie. It's a little shiny and it just doesn't work well. Now, what I have here, this is a black mark that was printed out with a computer printer. Let's see if that works a little better. And it does. Matter of fact, he goes right off the bat. So that's why we're having him do the start and stop on a black line. That way we know when he's going to start and stop for your final project. Now you notice with this, and I'll get it really clear. You notice that the printer cut out a little bit on this side. Let's see if he notices that. Nope, he thinks that's just fine. So this actually has more white space than the Sharpie does, but it doesn't work as well. And the only thing I can think of is this is a really, really flat black. It does not reflect whatsoever. Well, by the way, just so you can see this, okay, you notice as I put it in here, one of these go out at a time. Okay, so use a very, very flat black mark. If you can, print it out on your computer like I did that. You could test it first with the lights before you actually try to figure out, and you're running yourself crazy trying to figure out what's wrong with your problem. And the problem is the sensor's not picking it up to begin with. There's a fundamental lesson here that when you program or when you make any sort of engineering project, you need to understand your equipment's capabilities and limitations. In this case, you can spend hours trying to retweak your code to make it work when it's just simply nothing you do is going to make it work until you find a black that the sensors like. Okay, now that we've done that, let's switch to take a look at the program. Now, what I've done here today was instead of starting from scratch and building the program up by bit, I'm going to show you a completed program and I'm going to go through it. Now, sometimes you have to do this as a programmer, either to your old code that you've written before or somebody else's code that you're trying to learn something from. This is a stub. This is a stub for starting the robot on a black line and ending on a black line. You'll need to incorporate this in your file or project. You'll need to add several other things in there. Part of the challenge of programming is to make each piece work and then make all the pieces work together. Okay, so these little sticky notes I have here are comments. The robot does not see these. These are only for humans when we go back and look through it. And you'll see these zeros, ones. Now what happens with the line sensor is that right now the line sensor, if you ask it for a value, this is 3, this is 0. Now if you have only one of the sensors running, they'll either indicate 2 or 3 depending on which side is showing black and which side is showing white. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go through. Alright, we have when MBOT starts up, That's the event you should start with if you're using an upload program rather than trying to run it live. If you do not have this start here, I know that you've got the wrong type of program. Your grade will reflect. Okay, I have a repeat until loop. What I have, light follower sensor, that's the thing on his chin there, until it has a value of 0. And what happens is until I put it on a black line, it's not going to show 0. So that at least has him wait until you put him on the black line before he starts. Now it shows a color red there to indicate that he stopped and that he's not seeing what he needs to see to start. I'll turn him back on. Okay, and you see he turns red. Okay, now what happens, it'll do that until you put a black line in front of him. And before I do that, I'll talk ahead on the code a little bit. Okay, when you put a black line in front of him, he shows green to let you know, yeah, he's ready to go. And he waits 1 second. That 1 second's enough time when you set him down so that you can straighten back up again and he's not going right off the bat, because you'll see what happens is, okay, 1,000, he's off and running. Okay, so what I do is I have him move forward at 50% for 1 second. The reason of this is to move him off of the black line, because he moves immediately into another repeat loop where he keeps on going until he finds a black line. This part here is for the start line. This part here is for the finish line. He'll keep on moving forward until he finds a black line. Then he turns off the lights because the party's over and he stops moving. Okay, this is a talk through on starting and stopping on the black line. Hope it helps.